thousands of years, our hair was seen as unprofessional, disruptive, dirty, unkept, and even rebellious. But what if I told you that the lens through which we've been seeing our natural hair has been so warped? In today's video, we're going to be discussing the history of black hair, the science of black hair, and even the behavioral patterns of black hair. It is my aim that at the end of this video, we would be able to appreciate our hair better, know how to take care of our hair better, and even look at our hair from a different lens. So let's jump right into the video. Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. This is Jennifer here from Her Crown. You're so welcome. So in today's video, as I told you at the beginning, we're going to be discussing the history, the science, and the behavioral pattern of black hair. Long ago, even before this current modern beauty industry existed, the African hair culture was already so advanced. As far back as 3500 BC, in the Himba clan of the Namibian culture, or the Namibian clan, there already existed braids. Like braids came or sprung up from that tribe, the Namibian tribe, and they would do these elaborate hairstyles. Even when you look at old archaeological Egyptian artifacts, you would see that even their queens had elaborate Afro hairstyles because the Egyptian people were a mixed tribe. Now you would see that our hair has held history in its hands because even the kind of hairstyles we did signified a type of status in different clans. For those who belong to the Namibian tribe, if you would see a maiden, for example, having two cornrows facing forward, you'll be able to know that that maiden is single. She's not yet married. And then for the married women, you would see them with elaborate hairstyles. You'll see them color these hairstyles with something called the red ochre. So that way you're able to distinguish those who are married, those who are not married. With the hairstyles that we as African people did, we were able to differentiate our identity, our spirituality, our family lineage, our tribes, status, wealth. Those who were wealthy held their hair or made their hair in a way that was different from those who were single. So you see that our hair held culture, our hair held identity. For example, the Yoruba people in Nigeria, those who were of royal descent, they would do shuku, and this shuku was a symbol of royalty. So you see that our hair held a lot of identity. It held a lot of our culture. It was a way to pride ourselves as a people. And even in the making of the hair, women would typically sit together in community, oiling our scalps, doing this elaborate hairstyle. So it was a way for us to even commune together as the African people. Do you know that the current wide tooth comb that we are using was invented 6,000 years ago? For context, our Lord Jesus Christ was born 2,000 years ago. So that's to show you that way back when, during the time of the Nubians and in the Egyptian culture, the white tooth comb was already a scientific edifice that was already created. However, this is actually a cultural artifact because most of those combs that were discovered had human figures on it. It had animal figures on it. It also had different symbols that will show you that the comb not only signified something that was used to comb the hair, but it signified the identity of the people that invented it. So our hair was always a thing of pride. It was always a thing of culture. It was always a thing of distinguishing ourselves from one tribe to another. So when did it all change? When did our hair that was once a symbol of identity and pride become something that we second guess, become something that we no longer look to as glorious? Well, it started in the transatlantic slave trade. So from the 1400s to the early 1900s, there was slave trade before it was abolished. And during the slave trade, when the slaves were shipped to their masters, the first thing that they did was to cut their hair. Now, they would say that one of the reasons they decided to cut their hair was for hygiene purposes, but actually, one of the hidden reasons for doing this was to strip them away from their identity because they knew how well these people carried or valued their hair and what their hair meant to them. So they made sure to strip them completely of their identity. But even under oppression, the black people remained resilient. And this hair that was once a symbol of identity switched and became a symbol for survival. So no longer were the hairstyles elaborate to show beauty and to show tribe and to show identity, but it was now creative. They would use the hairstyles and craft these cornrows in a way to show the different maps so that they could use or look at your hair and be able to escape from their treacherous slave masters. The styles that were now used or done on the hair was used as maps, as road maps, as directions for survival. People would look at it and escape the forest. Not only did they use this hair as maps, but they now started to use it as a means to hide food. So they will put in seed so that when they escape their slave masters, they will be able to plant the seed and not starve. They would put rice into their hair so that they will have something to eat. So our hair morphed from one stage to the other. At one hand, something to show identity, and now at this hand, something to survive by. As the era of slave trade advanced and continued to advance, during the late 1700s, the governor of Louisiana passed a law known as the Tignon Law. Now, this law was aimed at protecting white women because they then started to see that our hair that had started to grow back and was now used to do different styles was now competing with the white women. And they did not want that because they wanted to make sure that we remained inferior or we continue to see ourselves as inferior to the white women. So what did they do? They ended up telling us that we needed to put head wraps on our hair and cover our hair. No black woman was then allowed to wear their hair out. As a black people, as we kept on experiencing these different changes and all that, it subconsciously, slowly but surely kept changing our idea and our mindset on how we viewed our hair. By the early 1900s, media became a thing. We could watch TV, we could see what was going on, and carefully, the Europeans, the white people, curated it and made sure that the standard of beauty was white. And you know that thing that they say, the more you behold something, the more you want to be like it, the more even subconsciously you morph yourself to be like it. It's like the crowd mentality where you want to look more like what they're saying is beautiful. And so with time, black women started to become sold to the idea of whiteness and of straight hair. And so when these harmful relaxers were introduced in 1940s to the 1960s and 1970s very heavily, black women jumped on it. They started to relax their hair, not realizing that these relaxers were changing the chemical bonds of their hair permanently, at least the hair that had grown out. It was making their hair break, it was giving them scalp issues, and it was also reducing the potential for their hair to grow. So this was when the idea of black hair does not grow then came in. Because it's like obviously when you relax your hair over and over, you've used those treacherous hot comb without heat protection to comb your hair. After a while, it will break, it will damage. You have like two strands on your hair. So it then became a thing. Black hair does not grow. And so before you know it, wigs became a thing. Braids have always been a thing, it's cultural to us, but wigs became a thing because now you're looking at whiteness, it's your standard of beauty, and you want to meet up to that. So you now start to wear things that look more like them so that you can feel beautiful. And so it continued. But somewhere in the middle of this relaxer introduction into the society, in the 1960s, during the civil rights movement, there was now this whole concept of black is beautiful and that we should accept our blackness. So now it changed. First, it was about identity, then it was survival, and then it was just trying to adapt to the society. But this time, our black hair was about the political movement as at that time. It was a show of freedom. It was a show of our right, a show of resistance to whiteness. And so the Black is Beautiful movement started. And you'll see that in that time, a lot of women wore their hair in afro as well, even though there was an infiltration of relaxers. Now, this in general is what we'll say is the history of our hair, how it has moved from time immemorial. But what about Africa? How come Africans, those that have stayed in Africa, those that their parents have stayed in Africa, how come they are having the exact same problem that Black Americans currently have? Why is there this desperation almost to want to look like their white counterparts, to want to straighten their hair, to want to wear wigs, to want to look Europeans want to have white features. Why is this the case? Now, this is the case because of colonialism. When the African countries were colonized by the Europeans, by the United Kingdom, by Americans, by the French, they not only came and gave us their language, because as you can see, I'm an African person, but my first language or the language I speak with most ease is English. Why is that? Is because we were colonized. So if you are speaking the language of a colonizers, what other thing did they change? What other part of your identity did they change? They not only gave us their language, they gave us their way of dressing, they gave us their education system. And part of this education system was to educate us that our hair was not good enough, that our hair was not made, that it was unkept, that it was dirty, that it was not professional. That you can wear it during your cultural days, but when it comes to office meetings, when it comes to something professional, we should do something more professional, aka we should morph our hair to look more like them. So yes, we were not trafficked, we were not sold into slavery, but after they had taken a lot of people over there, they came here and made sure they did the same thing that they did to those people over there. And that is why the average Nigerian, Ugandan, Cameroonian, those from Togo, Ghanaians, all of them, we see that we don't even accept our hair. We have to do something to it. Or if we carry our hair, it's eccentric. Like it has to be something, oh, radiant. Oh, I'm accepting my glorious crown. It has to be something eccentric instead of just normal. Like this is just our hair. This is just how it grows. But we refuse to accept that. Now, why does all this that I've just said matter? It's important to know your history. It's important to know why you look at your hair the way you look at your hair. So you need to ask yourself some pertinent questions. What do you really feel about your hair? Do you feel like it's beautiful? Do you feel like it's just there? Do you feel like I just want to comb my hair and slap on some wig and keep it moving? What do you really feel about your hair? The next question you need to ask yourself is why do you feel this way about your hair? What happened? What were you told? How were you affirmed about your hair? You will notice that most people that are very confident with their hair were people that were validated about their hair, or people that have, now that they are being adult, changed their mindset, changed their perspective to be able to see their hair as it should be seen. So you need to ask yourself why you see your hair the way you see your hair, why you feel the way you feel about your hair. The next thing is that you need to ask yourself, what do I need to learn about my hair? And the next thing you need to do is to say, what do I need to unlearn about my hair to be able to see my hair in the right way? Now, when you've asked yourself that question, then you know that you've gradually moved yourself to seeing and viewing your hair from a very clear lens. Now, let's talk about the science of black hair. What makes black hair so different from our white counterparts? The number one thing that makes our hair different is our follicle shape. So the white counterparts, their follicle is round. And so it means that the hair grows out straight or slightly wavy. It means that oil travels down their hair easily. So it means that they don't suffer dryness and breakage as much as we do. However, what makes our hair different is that our follicles are curved. So it means that the hair that grows out of our hair is curved. So people that have type 3 hair and type 4 hair are usually Africans. The exceptions would always be there, but 99.9% of people that have coily hair or curly hair have some level of Africanness in them. Now, our hair grows out coily, and so it makes for some characteristic difference. One of those differences is that the volume of our hair is usually bigger and fuller. The next difference is that because our hair is coily, oil doesn't travel down. That's the sebum that is naturally producing on our scalp doesn't travel down easily. So this means that our hair typically is dry. It means that it would need more oiling than our white counterparts. It also means that the coily part of our hair is the weakest part of our hair. So it means that we would need to handle our hair differently. That's why something like finger detangling is very prevalent in our culture other than our white counterpart. And finally, our hair doesn't grow downward. Our hair grows upward. These are the things that make our hair different. The moment we accept our hair for what it is the moment we would start to deal with our hair for what it is and appreciate the uniqueness and the beauty in it. Now, I started from this particular video as a three-part series. Number one, to make you understand where your hair is coming from, what your hair has been through in terms of your ancestors. That will help us understand the ideology behind our hair, and that will also help us know how to best care for our hair. So if you enjoy this video, then you want to subscribe to this channel and turn on your bell notification, because the next video will be about our scalp health, which is the foundation for healthy hair. And after that, we're going to talk about our hair DNA, which is the third part of this series, which is about our hair porosity, texture, our hair profile in general, because the knowledge of this information would help us to be able to grow our hair the longest and the healthiest. So thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Please give this video a like. It really encourages me to know that you like the video. Not only that, it helps YouTube to know that this video is of value. So thank you so much, and I'll see you all in my next one. Bye guys. Mwah.